Thanks for having us today. As we've been moving through the turmoil of the current world, I thought it would be really good to talk about the ever changing state of the world that we live in, and how businesses like ours are working hard to deliver value in today's digital world. So, the intermediary market, being at the center of the UK economy, has faced a number of these challenges. I mean, you guys have had to quickly adapt. If you think back to sort of pre 2020, face-to-face meetings were sort of a staple in the advisor toolkit. It's crazy to think how all of that has changed so quickly. So over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to cover off a number of interesting trends that have come across over the last couple of months being out and about with intermediary firms. So these sort of include consumer behavior with a focus on the now economy, advisor behavior and how technology is changing the game, and how new technologies are being woven into businesses, enabling exponential growth. And then finally, I'm hoping to give you a couple of practical examples on how to take advantage of these trends in today's world. So the first thing that we're going to cover is the now economy. So consumers nowadays, that's you and I really, are buying products with as little as a thumb swipe. So expecting them at their doorstep within days, hours, or even sometimes minutes. So this phenomenon has been sort of dubbed as the consumer era of now, or the now economy. The big challenge for our industry in competing in this now economy is to focus on two key things. So that being effort, how easy or hard it is to do something, and then speed, how quickly or long something takes. So for simplicity, we'll sort of combine these two into what I like to call the customer experience. So it's something that we've all experienced in our day-to-day lives, but we don't often stop and think about how it may be affecting our businesses. So working at the forefront of technological innovation, people often ask me, how can we improve their customer experience so that they can compete in this now economy? So most expect some sort of complicated explanation involving machine learning, sophisticated systems, but the real truth is it's much simpler than that. So you actually don't need to be some sort of technology wizard. Over the next couple of slides, I'll be able to take you through something that will help you maximize that customer experience. So the first thing to sort of start with is, well, what makes a great customer experience? To keep things really digestible, we've sort of isolated three key considerations for engaging customers in this now economy. So the first is, what are you saying to your customers? So we live in a world that is completely overloaded with information. It's super noisy, from email notifications to sponsored ads and massive corporate marketing budgets, all of which have dramatically narrowed the consumer's attention. So this has been even then further amplified by big tech companies, sort of employing armies of data scientists and software developers to work to convert the time you spend on their platforms, otherwise known as attention, into money. So what does that mean for smaller guys? It's that our old school approach of taking a batch of customer data, loading it into an email tool, and firing off a mail shot is no longer effective. So it doesn't mean you need to be a rocket scientist to work that out, really. I mean, I bet all of you have received at least 20 spam emails since I started speaking. So how do we cut through this noise? Well, to prove your company's value, you have to hyper-personalize each and every single interaction with that customer. You've got to make sure that they're feeling heard and understood. So, well, what does that really mean on a day-to-day basis in a practical sense? Does that mean, well, I need to resort to hand-typing personalized emails, or even worse, handwriting letters to each client? Well, thankfully not. The main reason the intermediary has built such a strong market position has repeatedly warded off aggregators, lenders going direct to the consumers, or all sorts of direct consumer propositions. It's really, really simple. So that's thanks to their deep understanding that each and every single one of you have of your clients. So now the key to that is the data. This data that is collected during a mortgage application, a protection application, creates a massive and provides a massive insight into each of these customer circumstances. You know who their loved ones are. You know what financial position each of them are in. So gone are the sort of examples that, sending off a generic Christmas email to your customers is no longer really going to make you a value differentiator. So we're sending something more personalized, like a home insurance application near their renewal, would add far more value. So thankfully, there's many firms such as ourselves who are helping leverage such data to enable hyper-personalized customer experiences. And the beauty of it all is it can be totally automated. This is working with these kind of ideas help unlock massive amounts of value for these customers each and every day. So the next really important sort of W question that we're going through, if you remember, I said that there were three, was when are you talking to these customers? So because in this now economy, we find ourselves, customers have become sort of accustomed to this instantaneous nature of services, subscriptions. All of this has made the real-time sort of standard that exists in the new industry. So to meet this really high bar, firms have to not only rapidly respond to customers, but also have to proactively anticipate the needs before even they do. So if you turn your attention, I suppose, we've spent a lot of time researching this, but Bloomberg tend to agree that customers switch between screens on their mobile phones up to 21 times a day. I mean, we're all consumers. Just take a look at your mobile phone screen time. I bet most of you have jumped more than 21 times on a good day. So again, practically, what does this mean? Well, the good news is that you're an intermediary. Simply put, you're at the interchange of information, constantly relaying information between multiple parties, from solicitors, estate agents, clients, lenders, insurers, quite frankly, anyone on the high street. In my world, you are what we call a single source of the truth. You have a deep, accurate understanding of every single intricate part of the transaction. You know exactly where each customer is, what they're busy trying to do, and how far they are along completing their goal. And that is the most powerful place to be. So things like using systems to automatically send customers personalized and binding insurance quotes just before their conveyancer asks for a statement of insurance is incredibly valuable, and all of which is much easier to do than you think. So the final W question that you need to be asking yourself, right, is where are you talking to these customers? So this one is one of my favorites, not because I'm some weird technological geek who really loves these sorts of things. It's more because I have a deep understanding of how these work, and I think a lot of the market doesn't, and therefore it's quite underleveraged. So we live in a world where the proliferation of digital channels has revolutionized the lives of every single one of us. For the first time in history, consumers can interact with their preferred brands, organizations across multiple devices. You can literally see it anywhere. Have any of you ever tried to phone customer services support? I mean, I know I have. But the difficulty you'll find is that you can't. There's no phone number. You'll find yourself forced to speaking to an agent over a web chat. Thankfully, it turns out it's actually a whole lot easier than sitting on the phone listening to some boring hold music for 20 minutes. So I'd advise you or ask you to give it a go the next time one of your neighbors decides to keep your next Black Friday purchase. So to effectively manage these consumers, that's really the hard part. So various channels sort of lend themselves to different communications. I mean, a clear example of this could be, you emailing your partner to ask them, well, when is the next time you're going to be home for dinner? I mean, you much rather find yourself using a WhatsApp or text to sort of do such a thing. So it's the same thing for clients, right? It's not often that you're going to have someone who's going to naturally find themselves completing a fact find, submitting hundreds of documents via SMS. It's just not really, it's not a modern way of how we work. But how do you quickly maybe update them on status of their loan application? Well, that could be an SMS. That's quite nice and user-friendly and will feel quite personalized. So these different channels lend themselves to different forms of communication. So that means to optimize this consumer experience or customer experience is really important for firms to adopt an omni-channel approach. So now that doesn't mean, you need to now go off to the App Store and download every single instant messaging platform you can get your hands on, grow 9 fingers to try and manage all of these different conversations. It's just not really a practical way of dealing with them. So thankfully, there's a couple of tools that will allow you to overlay your current existing data and deep understanding of these customers. And as you sit in that interchange, so that you can interact with them really easily across these multiple platforms. And again, we can automate the entire process so that you're not having to worry about, well, messaging Jen or Joe to update them on the status of that loan. Makes things really, really easy. So now that you're all experts in leveraging your supreme knowledge and data, understanding how to optimize that customer experience using the three: when you talk to a customer, what you say to those customers, and where you talk to those customers, we now need to focus on something that's my personal favorite, which is human behavior. So this itself is really hard to change. Human behavior is really hard to change. I think it's the biggest failing of sort of self-imposed challenge that we have in the technological world and in system design today. So for too long, firms have placed an expectation on both advisors and customers to painfully change the way that they work to fit systems and new technologies. This in itself is totally incorrect. So people forget that technology is a tool that we created to help improve our daily lives. I mean, you don't see the great kettle designers of the world imposing strict operational changes on their users now, do you? I mean, imagine a world where you had to dramatically change the way you made a cuppa because, well, Smeg decided that it would be more efficient to put the switch on the inside of the kettle. Now, I mean, that would be a hell of a faff, wouldn't it? So why would you try and work against human behavior when it's so obvious that you could just design for it? So there's one real key word here that helps solve this problem in the modern day and age, and I think that's automation. So the best way to avoid all these painful workarounds, learning new complicated systems, we've all been there. You roll out a new system and you have to fundamentally change the way in which you work entirely, which is just not it is a very complex task. So as humans, we are organic creatures. So we're all animals at the end of the day, prone to habits, good and bad. We're operating in this natural world. So the digital tools that we use should take all of these things into consideration. So the beauty is that we've had such advancements in automation, and we can use them to leverage how we do so today. So we live in a world where we can get rid of all these repetitive tasks that we don't want to do as humans. We can hand them over to machines, and they're very good at doing things over and over again. So it's simply, a simple example is switching on something like an out-of-office autoresponder, which has become sort of part of our everyday lives. Could you imagine manually replying to each and every email, sort of letting the person know that you're away? Not that many of your advisors take holidays, but I'm sure you'll follow my logic. So the question is, why wouldn't we apply the same logic to nurturing our loyal customers, enabling an enhanced broker and customer experience, especially in a world where technology is so rife and it's really easy to achieve such things? So I'm conscious that I've now sort of drowned you in a lot of information. You're now experts on, well, how to speak to your customers, with sort of encompassing when you talk to them, what you say to them, and how sort of what platforms you get across to them on. And then how do you sort of automate and lean into behaviors instead of trying to create environments where people need to go off and change everything that they do so that they can fit into this new world. We need to lean into those behaviors, using things like the autoresponder that's sort of built for human nature. So you can set it and forget about it. So I want to just finish with one final point, which is probably the most important to leave you with here today. So as an advisor, you sit at the heart of the mortgage and protection market. You've shown incredible resilience to an ever-changing economy, to ever-changing customer behaviors, and an increasingly complicated technological world. You have an incredible relationship with all of the customers, each and every one of them. I can totally see why they're as loyal as they are. That deep understanding that you have means that you're able to collect detailed information on them. You know everything about their loved ones, you know their financial positions, you know their objectives and goals that they're trying to achieve. You then finally sit at this interchange of colossal amounts of information, right, between estate agents, lenders, conveyancers, insurance companies, all these people on the high street. And that places you in an incredibly unique position, a position that's more powerful than any aggregator big technology company. And with all of this power and knowledge, it's essential and entirely within your gift to enable a really slick and efficient customer experience, one that allows you to compete in this now economy. probably I'd even go further, not even just to compete, to actually thrive in this now economy. So if you're correctly able to leverage these tools, you can achieve it all without having to make any dramatical changes to what you do today. I mean, that's the key that I think a lot of people miss. There's lots of stuff off the shelf that you can get, but it's going to potentially require you to make some dramatic changes to how you operate. The goal here is to find providers, partners, companies that are able to use the behaviors and operate alongside you as a partnership, as opposed to sort of a hindrance or an additional remote service. So the real question I'll put forward to you here today is, have you chosen to offer your customers a great customer experience? And if you would like to find out more about that, just reach out to us at any time. Thank you.